What's good? We're going to get into TNA Impact from December the 18th, 2025, the final TNA Impact of the year. This episode was actually really good. It was a really strong episode, even though it was taped. It was still good. Surprisingly, every match on the show was actually kind of good, including the steel cage match. That was great. So I did like that. So we kicked the show off with the first match of the night. It was the Battle Royal, the 20-man Battle Royal. The winner of that faces Frankie Kazarian on the New Year's Day edition of TNA Impact. The winner of the match was Bear Bronson. So he's a young guy. He used to do some stuff in AEW and everything. I'm guessing he's getting some. I guess this is like maybe a handshake deal, maybe a per appearance deal. I'm not really too sure. But Bear Bronson is a young guy. He just turned 30 last month in November. He just turned 30, so that's cool. So he ends up winning. The final three, it came down to Ryan Nemeth, Eric Young, and Bear Bronson. And thankfully, Bear Bronson won. We knew that Ryan Nemeth wasn't going to win at all. Same thing with Eric Young. This Battle Royal had your usual suspects in here, like, the Rascals, your tag team guys, Sinner and Saint. In the middle of the match, AJ Francis came out and beat up Rich Swann. He sent him on the ring apron. So I'm guessing they're going to probably end up having a match either at Genesis or maybe at the AMC premiere on January the 15th. So maybe they'll save it for that. But he got involved in this match as well. The Rascals were in here. So, they were all in here. The Good Hands, they were in here. Brandon Over Everything was in this match as well. So, the match was okay. If you've seen one Battle Royal, you've seen them all. Right decision was made. Frankie Kazarian was out on commentary. So, there's that. Moving on from that, this leads us into Santino Marella. He says the NXT guys will regret the day they invaded TNA. Steve Maclin says they picked the wrong people. Matt Hardy says tonight is the time for NXT to exit from TNA. Mike Santana says good luck in the cage with 5 dogs and they're going to eat them alive. Mike Santana says get ready, and then they bark like dogs. So whatever. That's fine there. Moving on, we get a backstage interview with Bear Bronson. He says that he's always wanted to be in TNA. He says it's a bad time to be Frankie Kazarian because he kicked down the front door of his kingdom, and he says he's coming for Frankie because he's the new number 1 contender for the TNA World Championship. Okay, good stuff there. That's fine. Bear Bronson's the big guy. He's probably about a good, I'd say, anywhere between 265 to 285. He's on the heavy set side, but he's kind of built a little bit, if we're being honest. But he's massive, though, so that's really good there. Clearly, Frankie Kazarian's going to win, but Frankie shouldn't struggle with this. This should not be a 50-50 booked match, right? So Frankie should be able to get a win in about at least a good 10 minutes, at best 12. It should not take Frankie 15 to 20 minutes to beat Bear Bronson. Like, come on, he's a nobody. Like, he just got to TNA. So TNA cannot fuck that up. Like, Frankie has got to beat Bear Bronson in about 10 to 12 minutes. He shouldn't struggle with beating Bear Bronson, even though he's a bigger guy. Moving on, this leads us into the Angel Warriors. They defeated the Diamond Collective, which consists of Mila Moore and Tessa Blanchard. The Angel Warriors got the win, which makes sense. So Xia Li hit the Warriors' way for the 1-2-3 onto Mila Moore. So that makes perfect sense. Mila Moore just got there. I think she was introduced, was it last month or in October? I think it was last month she got introduced to TNA, so that's fine there. It makes sense. Good stuff there. So there's that. Moving on. So Dani Luna, she's backstage. She says last week she went through hell in that dog collar match. She says if that isn't enough to warrant a Knockouts World Championship match, she doesn't know what is. And then she challenges Xia Li to prove that she's a fighting champion. And she says she's looking at her doomsday. I like this. This does need to happen. This is the direction that TNA needs to go in. Hopefully, the match is made official at the TNA premiere on AMC. And you have to have Dani Luna go over effectively. Dani Luna deserves to be Knockouts World Champion. She's been killing it as a heel for several months, and she's done great. And she's been cutting some really good promos. And Xia Li does not need to be champion long anyway. Like, even when she won on NXT a couple weeks back, it didn't mean much of anything. At Gold Rush, week 2, it didn't mean anything, right? You know, Xia Li was basically always just going to be a utility player, basically. That's what her position kind of basically is. So, you know, there is that. Moving on from that, this leads us into Robert Stone. He's livid backstage and asked Tessa Blanchard if she's the first ever woman to hold the TNA championship, and she says yes. He asked Myra Moore if she's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and she says yes. He tells Victoria that she's great. He tells them that they're the Michael Jordan of TNA, but even Michael Jordan had bad days. Tessa says they're going to issue an upper challenge to any 3 knockouts. She says they're the Diamond Collective, and this time they're not playing around. So good stuff there. I do like that. Moving on from that, Gia Miller's backstage with the Angel Warriors. She has Lei Ying Lee on her response to what Dani Luna said earlier on in the night. Xia Li says Dani is strong and tough. She says if she wants to fight, she won't run. She says she'll defend the title with honor. Xia Li says she's kind of scary. And she says that she's got this. Lee says, anytime, anywhere, bitch. So I do like that. Really good stuff there. Moving on from that, this leads us into Elijah. So he was just doing a song about how he tied up Mustafa Ali at Final Resolution when they were in El Paso. So Tasha Steelz comes out. She's not alone. She's got Agent Zero. She says they're not here to sing and dance to Elijah's music. She says they're here to address the travesty that happened to Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali comes out. He says that he's here to discuss the incident that took place, which is now known as the lasso in El Paso, which is great. Ali says that he was lassoed and dragged out by a horse. He tells the people to observe a brief moment of silence. So Elijah plays a tune of Walk of Elijah. Ali says he promises to make his life a living hell. Elijah says it's time to fight. So the Good Hands, they attack Elijah from behind, and then Elijah goes to the stage. He's blindsided by Mustafa Ali. He gets hit with his guitar, and that was it. So that makes perfect sense. I do like this. Clearly, they're going to set up a match between Elijah and Mustafa Ali at the AMC premiere, which makes sense. So that's pretty good there. Moving on from that, this leads us into Indy Hartwell. Oh, my God. What the hell? Indy says that last week was a war and she didn't realize how it would take from her. Indy says she's not cleared, but one good thing about her is that she never gives up. She says Dani Luna pushed her to her limit. Indy says when she's cleared, she'll prove that she's the best knockout. She says they could call her stubborn or crazy, but one day they'll call her TNA Knockouts World Champion. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, TNA needs to wash their hands of Indy Hartwell. Like, come on, she doesn't have it. Ever since she had that bad match with Tessa Blanchard back at Slammiversary, I've not really been a fan of Indy. I've not. And it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense for TNA to actually push Indy Hartwell. It makes no sense. Unless they're going to give the Knockout Championship to Dani Luna, and then maybe you have Dani drop it, maybe at like Rebellion or whatever, something like that. I don't fucking know, but they don't need to push Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell just needs to go away. She needs to go maybe to MLW or on the Indies or whatever, but clearly she don't need to be in TNA. It's not it. Moving on. So, this leads us into a backstage segment by Moose. He says that he was this close from being the number one contender to the TNA World Championship. He says he's not going to make excuses. He says he didn't invoke his rematch clause for the TNA Exhibition Championship, and he asked for a match against Leon Slater at Genesis. So Cedric Alexander shows up. He says that he's going to revoke that, and he's got next. He's the next in line for the championship. Okay, that's fine there. Moving on. Frankie Kazarian, he's backstage. He's talking to a painting of Elvis Presley. He says it takes a king to know a king. He says that he's about to become the new face of AMC. Frankie Kazarian says that he's going to start 2026 off by beating a bear. Frankie says he doesn't know if he's half bear or half Charles Bronson. He says he's not a mark, and that belt is staying with him. Okay, whatever. Who gives a shit? Main event of the evening: Team TNA. Team TNA. They win the 10-man steel cage match. So that's fine there. It was an okay match, I guess. The cage looked kind of bad, but whatever. In the middle of the match, the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch, they showed up. They abduct Matt Hardy, and they took him to some weird place. So basically, Mike Santana got the win. I forgot who took the pin. I believe it was Brooks Jensen. So Santino Marella ended up hitting the Cobra, and then Mike Santana hit the spin the block for the 1-2-3. Then post-match, Arianna, she shows up. She hugged her pops only to betray him and kick him in the nuts. So Steve Maclin, he climbs into the cage because Mike Santana was trying to, get inside the cage. I mean, come on. Mike Santana had a dumb babyface moment, but it is what it is. It happens. But anyway, Arianna, she gets out of dodge. Macklin's pissed off. And Mike Santana, he's irate. So Arianna asks Mike Santana if he has a daughter, and she tells him she hopes that he's nothing like Santino. And then she kisses Stax at the stage, and both Mike Santana and Steve Maclin check on Santino Marella. So this is really a really good way to go off the air. Really good, It got an okay reaction. It would have been a lot better if this was live, but it's fine. We get the point. Clearly, they're going to set up a match between Stax and Santino Marella at either the AMC premiere or at Genesis. I think that because this feud's gotten so personal with real life, I mean, now that it's, a real life situation, I think it should be where Santino Marella puts his director of authority on the line. He puts, his GM status on the line. Stacks wins, and Stacks becomes the new GM of TNA going into 2026. That would be fucking awesome. And hopefully they go with that. That would be great. You could do some type of match where it's believable. You don't want just a regular singles match, a regular one-on-one match. I would do maybe either like a last man standing or an I Quit match, or even like a first blood match or something like that, or whatever. But you got to do something like that to where Santino Marella is willing to put his GM status on the line, and he loses, and Stacks becomes the new GM of TNA for a while to continue the TNA NXT storyline partnership that they've got going on. So I think that makes the most sense, and that would be great. That would really be great. So hopefully that does happen. So this was a pretty decent show. Pretty good way to end the year. Hopefully, when they're on AMC, hopefully TNA can at least do, I would say, 3 live shows a month. Especially after a pay-per-view. All of their shows should be live after a pay-per-view, right? So whether it's a TNA Plus event or whether it's a actual pay-per-view like Summerversary or Bound for Glory or Rebellion or Genesis, you can still do live shows. Also, TNA needs to replenish that roster. They need to bring in a ton of new talent next year. Young talent from the indies if they can. If WWE happens to release some people that are notable and you know that you can get them. Even if AEW, if they got some contracts that are up, try to get them as well. You got to really freshen up that roster next year. You got to get rid of a lot of dead weight. TNA going into TNA going into 2026, you got to have Mike Santana be the top guy, right? Frankie Kazarian needs to lose at Genesis, and he needs to go away. There needs to be no rematch clause. Just have him go away, write him off television somehow, something. But Frankie Kazarian and Eddie Edwards and Moose and Brian Myers and all these guys, JDC, it's time to move on from those guys. Make those guys producers. Eric Young, make those guys producers and, focus on young guys. Focus on pushing young guys. Seriously. Because TNA probably knows in the back of their minds, they know that they're not going to have Mike Santana long next year, standing with Leon Slater, because why? They're both going to be working for NXT sometime in 2026. So, there's that. But the show itself was good. This was a really good way to end the year for TNA. TNA, in my opinion, has had a really good 2025. The NXT TNA partnership has worked miracles for TNA, and I'm hoping nothing but the best for TNA in 2026. 2026 should be the year of TNA, and that's what I'm hoping for. I really am hoping for that, because I want TNA to really be that third promotion that I know that they can be. But this was a pretty decent show for the most part. I'm interested in seeing where they go with the Santino Marella Stacks feud. I'm digging what they're doing with Dani Luna. So, yeah, pretty good show overall. But what did you guys think? Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.